There is one plate in the sink. One. Not a full kitchen. Not a week of dishes. Not the aftermath of feeding a small army. One plate. You have already walked past it 6 times. You know it would take less than 2 minutes to wash. You have probably spent more time thinking about washing it than washing it would actually take. And yet, every time you look at it, your brain reacts like the plate has requested a formal meeting, 3 references, and proof of insurance. So you leave it there, then you feel guilty. Then the guilt makes the plate feel even heavier. And by the end of the day, this tiny chore has somehow become evidence that you are failing at adulthood. This experience is often described as laziness, but laziness does not fully explain wanting to do something, knowing how to do it, feeling stressed because you have not done it, and still being unable to begin. So what is actually happening? Why can tiny tasks feel physically impossible when you have ADHD? The answer starts with something your to-do list never shows you. The task you are avoiding may be small, but to your brain, it may not be one task at all. Wash the plate sounds like a single instruction, but before the plate becomes clean, your brain may need to notice it, stop what you are currently doing, decide whether this is the right time, stand up, walk over, turn on the water, deal with the food residue, find the soap, wash the plate, dry it, put it away, and then figure out how to return to whatever you were doing before. That is not one action. That is an entire chain of actions, decisions, transitions, and mildly unpleasant sensations dressed up as one innocent bullet point. And because most of those steps happen automatically for other people, nobody writes them down. The list just says, wash plate. Very helpful. It is like describing air travel as go to another city. Technically accurate, suspiciously incomplete. For many people with ADHD, the hardest part is not understanding the task. It is activating the sequence. You can know exactly what needs to happen. You can know how long it will take. You can even genuinely want to do it. But knowing and starting are not the same mental process. This is why advice like, just do it, can feel so frustrating. The person usually knows that doing the task would solve the problem. That is not new information. The missing piece is not knowledge. It is access to action. And the smaller the task is, the more ridiculous the struggle can feel. If you were avoiding a 12-hour project, at least the resistance would make sense. But when the task takes 2 minutes, every minute you delay can start to feel like proof that something is wrong with you. You think, why am I still sitting here? Why can everybody else do this? Why am I making this so difficult? And now the plate is no longer just a plate. It is a personality test you believe you are failing. Another problem is that many tiny tasks offer almost nothing. Your attention wants immediately. They are not new. They are not exciting. They are not urgent. They do not provide a clear reward. There is no dramatic finish. Nobody applauds when you move a cup from the table to the dishwasher. At best, the result is that your house looks exactly how it was apparently supposed to look in the first place. Meanwhile, your phone contains messages, arguments, breaking news, entertainment, novelty, and a small glowing machine specifically engineered to offer something different every few seconds. The plate never stood a chance. This does not mean a person with ADHD is incapable of doing boring things. It means the conditions around a task can strongly affect how accessible that task feels. And that becomes very obvious when urgency suddenly appears. Imagine that plate has been sitting in the sink all day. You have looked at it repeatedly. You have negotiated with yourself. You have promised to do it after one more video. Then someone texts, "I'm nearby, can I stop over?" Suddenly you are cleaning the kitchen at a speed normally associated with emergency response teams. The plate gets washed, the counter gets wiped, the trash disappears. You somehow notice dirt that has existed since the previous presidential administration. So what changed? The task did not become easier. You did not suddenly develop better morals. The deadline changed the conditions around the task. Now there is urgency. There is a clear consequence. There is emotional intensity. There is a finish line. All of those things can make action easier to access. This is also why people may complete something complicated under pressure while continuing to avoid something embarrassingly simple. Difficulty is not determined only by the size of the task. It is also shaped by how clear, stimulating, urgent, emotionally loaded, and immediately rewarding that task feels. Then there is the transition problem. Sometimes you are not avoiding the plate itself. You are avoiding the moment of stopping one activity and beginning another. You may be comfortable on the couch. You may be focused on your phone. You may finally be concentrating on work. Washing the plate requires your brain to release the current activity, switch direction, and build momentum again somewhere else. The chore may take 2 minutes, but the interruption can feel much larger. This is why someone can remain stuck while repeatedly thinking, "I'll do it in a minute." They are not necessarily refusing the task. They may be waiting for a clean internal moment when switching feels easy. Unfortunately, that magical moment often has the professional reliability of a contractor who says they will arrive sometime between Tuesday and November. And while you wait, shame begins adding weight to the task. At first, the thought is, "I should wash the plate." Later, it becomes, "I should have washed it already." Then, "Why haven't I washed it?" Then, "What kind of adult cannot wash one plate?" Each layer of criticism creates a stronger emotional reaction. Now looking at the plate produces guilt, frustration, embarrassment, and self-disgust. Avoiding it brings temporary relief from those feelings. So the brain avoids it again. The task creates shame. Shame creates avoidance. Avoidance creates more shame. And one ordinary household object is now running a fairly successful psychological extortion operation. So how do you make starting easier? The first strategy is to shrink the beginning, not just the task. People often hear, "break the task into smaller steps." That advice is useful, but it is still too vague. Clean the kitchen becomes wash the dishes. But wash the dishes may still feel like a commitment to the whole event. Instead, make the first action almost insultingly small. Put one hand on the plate, stand beside the sink, turn on the water, carry one cup into the kitchen, open the document, write the title, put one sock in the basket. The goal is not to finish. The goal is to cross the invisible border between not acting and acting. Momentum is often easier to continue than it is to create. And if you stop after the first step, that still counts. You are allowed to begin a task without signing a legally binding agreement to finish it. The second strategy is to remove decisions. Every choice adds friction. Which cleaning product should you use? Where should this object go? Should you wash everything or just one item? Should you do it now or after lunch? Create defaults. Keep the supplies where the task happens. Use one basket for things that belong in another room. Choose one standard cleaning method. Decide the first step before you need to act. The less negotiating required in the moment, the fewer opportunities your brain has to form a committee and postpone the vote. The third strategy is to borrow stimulation. Play one song. Set a 5-minute timer. Call someone while you begin. Race the microwave. These are not childish tricks. They are environmental tools. People use alarms because memory is unreliable. They use calendars because time is difficult to track. They use shopping lists because trusting the human brain to remember 17 unrelated items in a brightly lit warehouse is an act of reckless optimism. Adding stimulation is simply another way of designing the environment around the task. The fourth strategy is to separate the task from the moral judgment. Instead of saying, "I am lazy," try, "I am having trouble initiating this." That sentence is less dramatic. It is also more useful. Lazy describes a character flaw. Trouble initiating describes a problem you can work with. You can reduce the first step. You can remove decisions. You can add urgency. You can ask someone to sit nearby. You can change the environment. You can get support. You cannot troubleshoot a moral indictment. And none of this means that every avoided chore is caused by ADHD. Anxiety, depression, exhaustion, stress, sleep problems, and ordinary human avoidance can create similar struggles. One difficult afternoon does not diagnose anything. ADHD involves a persistent pattern that affects daily functioning across more than one part of life. But whether the cause is ADHD or something else, shame is rarely the tool that finally repairs the system. The goal is not to become someone who never struggles to start. The goal is to stop treating every difficult beginning as evidence that something is wrong with your character. Sometimes the task is small. The doorway into it is not. So the next time one plate begins casting a shadow over your entire day, do not promise yourself you will clean the whole kitchen. Walk over. Touch the plate. That is enough to open the door. And if you have an appointment at 3 o'clock and somehow cannot begin anything before 3 o'clock, that is another piece of machinery entirely.